So now we've got a big show for you tonight. We have 5 readers, so let's get things right started. Our first reader of the evening obtained his bachelor's degree in law enforcement from Western Illinois in 2011 and is currently working towards his second bachelor's degree in fiction writing, this time at Columbia College, Chicago. His fiction has appeared in Joyland, a hub for short fiction, and his nonfiction has appeared in the Atticus Review. Please welcome Jeremy Jasper.
Good evening.
How's the height on the mic?
That's good. It's my first real reading, so if there's a little trickle of pee, just ignore it.
You're amongst friends.
I'm going to read a short nonfiction piece for you guys today. We were huddled together in the closet, waiting for Mom to count to 100. It was 1:30 in the morning, and she grabbed us from our beds and told us we were going to play hide and seek. The house was dark. No lights and no TV. We ran into the closet and hugged each other tight. Katie fell asleep, but I stayed awake and listened to my mom count slowly as long as I could. Katie was 1.5 years younger than me. She had a small little body and a great big mop of hair that made her look like a Cabbage Patch doll. She used to flip out of her crib in the middle of the night, and you'd wake up and see this big head of hair running down the hall. I was young then, probably only 4 or 5. We'd done these midnight hide-and-seek sessions before. Usually, Mom would come and find us after a while, and we'd wake up back in our beds. This time was different. I woke up still in the closet. Katie was still sleeping, her little body stuffed inside one of the jackets that fell down from above us. The sun was beginning to come up, and it started to creep under the closet door. I opened the door and found Mom asleep on the old blue chair in the living room. Usually she slept in Grandma's bed when Grandma was out of town, but she didn't want to be too far from us. The chair was decrepit, pink nail polish on the fabric, brown stains around the skirt of the chair from our little dog. She was holding a small kitchen knife in her right hand. She was snoring loudly. Her blonde hair pressed against the inside of the chair, phone off the hook in her left hand. I shook her awake. "Mommy, you couldn't find us?" She rustled and stirred, and I could tell that she had been crying. Running lines of eyeliner slid down her cheeks. When I was young, I had a recurring dream that my mom and I were in a car driving. I don't know if we were on a street or in an alley, but it was dark. She would be driving and I'd be in the back seat, still too young to sit up front with her. I had glasses then, even as a young boy. Through the smudges and scratches of them, I could see 2 men running up to the car. They banged and clawed at the car until finally ripping the door open. All I wanted to do was make sure she was safe. I was just a boy and they were grown men, but I fought them off as best I could. I kicked and scratched and punched at them until I jumped awake. "Hey, Jer Bear," she said when she wiped her eyes. "I'm going to make some pancakes. Do you want some pancakes?" I nodded my head yes and followed her into the kitchen. She put the phone back on the receiver and tossed the knife into the sink. We got the batter ready and set 2 pancakes on the griddle. She was young when she had me, only 18. We didn't have much money growing up. I went to school with holes in my shoes and pants, and when I had worn them out completely, we searched the thrift stores for something in my size. My mom worked 2 jobs all throughout my childhood trying to keep us afloat. I would come along on her landscaping jobs and play in the leaky basements of apartment buildings, while she trimmed hedges and cut lawns. We lived with her mother in a 3-bedroom house in South suburban Chicago. Grandma, Mom, Katie, and me. We woke Katie up and carried her back to her bed. Mom didn't mention the night before. She didn't say why we were playing hide and seek in the middle of the night. She didn't say much at all. My dad was friends with my mom's brother when they were younger. That's how they met. Her brother was abusive and no one was around to stand up for her. My dad told him that if he hit her again, he'd come back and kick the shit out of him. The next time he hit her, she called my dad and he came over. He knocked. When her brother opened the door, he started hitting him. He beat him up pretty good, and he never hit her again. In the kitchen, the pancakes had burned and were sticking to the pan. We scraped them into the garbage and started a new batch. My father wasn't around much when we were kids. He spent a lot of time in and out of jail for various offenses, and a lot more time in places unknown. When he missed a birthday or holiday because he was in jail, his parents would give us a present and write "From Dad" on it. Katie always loved him more than I did. Daddy's girl and all. When I was 8 years old, he told us he was moving to Tennessee. I don't know why, but I started crying. He came over to our house and handed Katie a key. It didn't open anything and probably never did, but I guess it was supposed to symbolize his love for her. She was bawling her eyes out. I wanted something from him, anything. I held out my hands and closed my eyes and waited for something. He took the shirt off his back and put it in my hands. It was a Chicago Bulls championship shirt, black and red with the championship trophy on the front. I lost the shirt before I ever wore it. I suppose at one point they got along, Mom and Dad. Not as long as I had known them. She left him just after my sister was born. I wasn't old enough to remember. She told me I was crying and hungry, and when she opened the refrigerator, all that was inside was a bottle of ketchup and some loose bottles of beer. So she left. At night after she'd had a long day, she would call him on the phone and ask for help. Money, food, anything. We never got it. We could hear him screaming on the other end of the phone. "They're my kids too. They're not all yours, you know." I think she was afraid of him. She was afraid that he would come in the middle of the night and steal us. Just put us in his car and drive away, and she'd never see us again. He could be scary. He was big and tall and mean looking. He could be violent too if he wanted, and she knew if he tried, he could take us away forever. That's why we were in the closet, huddled together, listening to Mom count up to 100, with a knife in one hand and the phone in the other, hoping we'd fall asleep before he came over, hoping he wouldn't come over at all, sitting by herself counting as high as she could before she drifted into sleep. 98, 99, 100.